These are your eNews headlines. Live from Johannesburg, good evening. I'm Gareth Edwards. A hotline has been opened for South Africans affected by the deadly earthquake and tsunami, which has so far killed at least 380 people in Indonesia. The husband of a woman killed in violence in Westbury tells of his agony. Well, first, the Department of International Relations has set up a 24-hour helpline to assist South Africans trying to reach relatives that have been caught up in the earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia. At least 384 people have been reported dead so far. Rescue workers are scrambling to find survivors of the 7.5 magnitude quake that was followed by that tsunami. Officials say South Africans can call the number on the screen if they are not able to trace their loved ones in the region. It is a 24-hour line. There it is for you there. Government has also sent condolences to the Indonesian government following that deadly quake. Here's a look now at some of the footage from that disaster. Well, the quake in Palu on the Sulawesi Island triggered a 2-meter high tsunami that has killed at least 400 people. That death toll also expected to rise as more bodies are being found with the water receding. The rescue, though, has been compromised because of a major power outage and a cut in communications across the entire island. To remind you, back in August, over 500 people were killed in a series of major quakes on the island resort of Lombok. Well, we return to news from here at home now. The husband of a woman who was shot in Westbury on Thursday has spoken out about his family's pain and suffering. Ruben Peterson says his wife's death is a reflection of what the community has been reduced to by criminal elements. Linda Kuchlek sat down with the grieving husband and filed this report.
An uprising against crime that's wreaking havoc in the community and claiming the lives of innocent people. Westbury residents took to the streets on Friday, saying they've had enough. Their protests were sparked by the death of 45-year-old Heather Peterson. She was caught in the crossfire during what's believed to be a gang-related shootout as she was heading home. Her niece was also injured in the incident.
A woman was shot and killed, and in that situation they are complaining that there are some shootings that are going on in the area. But we have arrested 2 suspects. One is under guard at the hospital. One is is in detention in the cells. We are still trying to get the motive why there was a shooting.
Peterson's husband recalls how he found out about his wife's passing.
I was at work. I got a phone call while I'm busy working to say I've got to come home. My wife has been shot. Understand what I'm saying? And as I rushed home in the car, I even phoned back to ask the people, whoever it was that phoned me, I don't know who it was, and asked what the situation was. And then I was told over the phone that my wife was passed on while I was on my way.
He says what happened to his wife is a reflection of crime's devastating impact on the community.
Go out to run an errand, and as you're running that errand, you never come back. That is the way of we are living now. You can't even afford to run an errand. You should be scared to go out of your gate to go to the shop. You can't send your child to the shop because you don't know if that is the first or the last that you're ever going to see these people.
Peterson's 10-year-old niece, who was injured during the Thursday incident, has since been discharged. But her guardian says the child is still traumatized. Meanwhile, residents have vowed they'll continue protesting until the police minister visits the area. Lindokuhle Xulu, Westbury in Johannesburg.
Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina has identified a number of properties he wants to expropriate without compensation. Masina says some of these properties are privately owned and the city plans to immediately develop and establish townships on these pieces of land. This comes as Parliament is currently reviewing Section 25 of the Constitution.
This will contribute to the greater debate that is taking place in South Africa about a land expropriation without compensation. You will know that there's always been an outcry in the country that the current Section 25 as is has never been tested in court, whether or not it can produce the similar result that we want as compared to the one where we amend the Constitution. So we thought that as a city, it will be important for us to contribute in the greater debate by ensuring that we cover all other angles, because we're quite impressed with the parliamentary process that have gone throughout the country for people to express themselves. But we're foreseeing a situation where someone can still come back and say, to delay, to say that, but the current constitution has not been tested. So we think that this will provide an opportunity for us as government to test the Section 25 as it is, so that whatever outcome, we are able to contribute it to the greater debate that is taking place in South Africa.
Well, the state capture inquiry this week released affidavits from implicated parties. Among those were Rajesh Tony Gupta, Fana Hlongwane and Duduzane Zuma. This month, the inquiry's chair granted Zuma permission to cross-examine former Finance Minister Ngabisi Jonas. Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo had also rejected the Gupta's bid to testify in another country or via video link. Aaron Bates reports.
It's 4-1 on what happened at the Gupta's house on 23 October 2015. Two Gupta brothers, Fana Hlongwane and Duduzane Zuma, share the same version. Their take is at odds with that of Ngabisi Jonas. Affidavits released at the inquiry this week answer one riddle. Rajesh Tony Gupta confirms he was at the house on 23 October 2015. Then he saw Zuma, Hlongwane and a third person he was later told was Jonas. Gupta tells the inquiry, "I did not introduce myself to anybody, nor did I participate in that meeting." Rajesh Tony Gupta's version is, he had no discussions with Jonas, made no ministerial job or monetary offer, and knew nothing about cabinet reshuffles. In short, he denies Jonas's version. Gupta accuses Jonas of concocting a story to implicate him. His brother RJ repeats the accusation in his affidavit. The brothers' affidavits and Zuma's are signed by the same Commissioner of Oaths at South Africa's Consulate General in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, on the same day. In his affidavit, Zuma says he owns no fixed property in Dubai. He describes a meeting chiefly between Hlongwane and Jonas about rumours of blackmail. "I mostly played the role of a spectator and more of a mediator," says Zuma. Zuma's version lines up with what he's said before.
Mr. Jonas was not offered by the Guptas. I did meet them. I was present. There was no such thing that took part.
In time, he and Jonas will thrash out their disagreements.
I therefore grant Mr. Duduzane Zuma leave to cross-examine Mr. Jonas.
Meanwhile, South Africa and the UAE signed a mutual legal agreement on Monday. It allows the states to cooperate on criminal investigations. It also brings South Africa a step closer to extraditing fugitives. Aaron Bates, Johannesburg.
And still to come, South Africa may have received a warm welcome at the UN, but water insecurity is still the main focus on the global community. Welcome back to eNews at 7. International Relations Minister Lindiwe Sisulu says South Africa has been well received at the 73rd United Nations General Assembly in New York. She says the country's reputation does need to be restored to what it was a few years ago. In June, South Africa was voted onto the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member.
We're going into the Security Council with a lot of people expecting leadership from South Africa. around issues that are very tricky in the world. And we have taken very bold steps ourselves, even before we got into the Security Council, about issues that we felt that needed to be, held by to hold the bull by the horns. One of them being the Palestinian issue. That is something that even in the General Assembly, we heard quite a lot of progressive governments pronouncing themselves on it, and we felt that was very good. It needs to be one of those matters that we deal with expeditiously.
Clean and accessible water for all by the year 2030. That's the task the United Nations has set the global community. It's one of the 17 objectives that make up the Sustainable Development Goals that the world leaders committed to back in 2015, you might remember. Well, several years later, and the UN Secretary General says that climate change remains his top priority. Antonio Guterres fears that the global response, though, has been too slow. As William Denslow now reports from New York, this year's General Assembly is now an opportunity to galvanize the international community.
Water scarcity, an issue that affects over 40% of the world's population. The United Nations expect that figure to keep rising.
Climate change is indeed running faster than what we are, and we have the risk to see damage, irreversible damage, that will not be possible to recover if we don't act very, very quickly.
Global leaders have gathered in New York for the annual UN General Assembly. Members of the UN hope this will serve as an opportunity to bring the issue of climate change and water insecurity back into focus. In 2015, nations around the world signed the Paris Agreement in a bid to curb the effects of climate change. But according to the co-author of a UN climate report, governments are nowhere near on track to meet their goals. But it's not just governments that need to jump in and help. That's the message from Michael Phelps, who's won 23 Olympic gold medals in the pool. Since retiring, he's teamed up with Colgate and the Every Drop Counts campaign to raise awareness about water waste.
Being able to save approximately 50 billion gallons of water. So that's something that's already big and it's already a great change to see. But I'm somebody that's always very greedy, and I feel like this is something where we can see more and there can be more people that can jump on board with us and make a significant difference.
Cape Town's water crisis raised global fears about water insecurity. In an effort to address these concerns, the UN has dedicated the next decade to tackling water-related challenges. But the fear is that without a truly global response, these actions could be just a drop in the ocean. William Denslow, New York.
After the break, we're going to have a look at what your Sunday weather looks like, and then Islam, the new universal language, where we'll find out more about the impact that the sound of Durban is having on local and also global platforms.
Welcome to the Weather Centre on Saturday, where the morning starts off with some fog and drizzle along the northeast and escarpment on Sunday. We're expecting cooler temperatures into parts of Limpopo and northwest, with a predominantly sunny day across South Africa. Sizzling hot weather is forecast over the western and southern part of the country. And as we head into Sunday evening, we'll see thundershowers starting up across the interior, extending from Namibia all the way through to the Eastern Cape by Sunday night. Here's a look at your countrywide weather forecast of the hot afternoon for the Northern Cape. Uppington tops 37 with the possibility of thundershowers, and those extend all the way through to Carnarvon and are both at 32 degrees. High cloud is expected into the Western Cape with a mostly clear and hot day. 32 for Cape Town and Longabont, 37 for Swellendam and Oudtshoorn, with Beaufort West, Graaff-Reinet and Somerset East expecting thundershowers into Sunday night. You'll see a sunny and warm to hot day for the rest of the Eastern Cape, 35 degrees for Adelaide, just shy of 30 into Umtata, partly cloudy and slightly warmer for KwaZulu-Natal, 27 for Pietermaritzburg, Durban and Richards Bay both at 24. We stick in the mid-20s over the western part of Mpumalanga with a sunny Sunday in store. Bombela can expect a bit of light rain, mainly in the morning with a high of 23 degrees. And you'll see morning fog and drizzle along the northeastern escarpment with a sunny and slightly cooler day over the western part of Limpopo. Northwest can expect a slightly cooler day with most highs in the upper 20s with a sunny forecast. Fine and dry weather is expected into the Free State, 30 degrees for Bloemfontein, with Bethlehem and Harrismith in the mid-20s. Gauteng can expect a sunny Sunday, 28 for Pretoria, and Vereeniging tops 27. On Monday, we're expecting thunderstorms to extend from Uppington through to East London, with sunny and hot weather persisting over the eastern half of the country. Evening rain moves into Cape Town with a cold front, and by Tuesday we'll see cooler weather over the southwestern parts of the chance of rainfall and thundershowers over the central and southeastern parts. That's all from the Weather Centre for now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Well, here's a question. Is Kwam the new Kwaito? The rapidly growing musical sound is dominating dance floors here in South Africa and other countries as well. But what exactly is it?
Kwam is a style of music that originates from Durban. It's since made its mark internationally, pleasing music lovers all over.
The Kwam is the best dance in Africa. That's the common bit. You accommodate our uncle. Either you are India or Umzulu, you are China or what? He wasn't able to feel and fight. As long as you are South African, then we're coming to a fun. Everybody does the common bit. We feel like, whoa, 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 whoa.
From Destruction Boys, Babe Sodumo, and many other artists, the Kwam sound has inspired a new generation of artists.
What mostly distinguishes Kwam from the others, it almost has the same elements, but in Kwam, it's like the rules are more loose. You are able to go as crazy as you want to. You are able to build a beat that goes like really good, but you don't have to follow someone else's rules.
True. Yeah. There's also growing international acclaim for Kwam. Babe Sodumo's Wololo features on the soundtrack of the award-winning film Black Panther.
Well, here's a reminder now of your main stories this evening. A hotline has been opened for South Africans that have been affected by the deadly earthquake and tsunami that has killed at least 380 people in Indonesia. The husband of a woman killed in violence in Westbury tells of his agony. My thanks to the team behind the scenes for this evening. Good night. Bye-bye.